Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly, Executive Director for the Alzheimer's Association here in Northern California and Northern Nevada. Welcome to our June Facebook Live. Really excited to share with you some new updates. What I'm going to cover today is a bit about some fabulous news from Washington, D.C. Isn't that a concept, to have good news from Washington, D.C.? So I'm going to share with you some updates about our public policy work, also go into some new research findings that have hit the news, and also some old research findings that we get asked a lot of questions about. And then I'll end today's session with a bit on community engagement. What are we doing out in the community to help families, and how can you get involved? So first, let's start with news from Washington, D.C. About 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago, we had 1,200 advocates from the Alzheimer's Association at the Alzheimer's Impact Movement's Public Policy Forum. And it's an incredible experience to be there with all these people, almost all of whom have family members with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia, and who want to change the world for all of us through public policy. It was really fantastic. I wish you could all be there, and you are all invited, by the way. If you want to join us next year, it will be the end of March, beginning of April. The big asks we had were, first and foremost, to fund Alzheimer's science. And we were asking for an additional $425 million to be approved by the House of Representatives Appropriations Committee and the Senate Appropriations Committee. At the time that we were there, the House had actually approved a $401 million increase in Alzheimer's funding, and we were asking the Senate to up that amount. And I am so happy to tell you that so far they have. They are recommending $425 million additional dollars for Alzheimer's science funding. If that gets funded, so there's more steps to get it approved, we will get the Alzheimer's research budget through NIH up to $2.2 billion. That would be fabulous, and it can't happen soon enough. So we are very excited by that news coming out of Washington, D.C. One of the other major asks we had in D.C. was something called the BOLD Act, and it relates to building our infrastructure for dementia. What that means is that we need public health and departments of health across the country to recognize that Alzheimer's is a public health crisis, and we need to identify it earlier and take steps to try to reduce our risk of developing Alzheimer's. So that's another initiative that we focused on. If you want to learn more about that, please go on to our website at alz.org and sign on as an advocate. We're always looking for AIM members, and I encourage you to look at that. This is probably one of the most powerful tools we have in the Alzheimer's Association to change the future, and I know we all want to do that. If you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly, Executive Director for the Alzheimer's Association. We just covered news from DC, and we're going into news in research. You may have read something that made you sit up and take notice this last week, and it was about a study that was published in Neurology. Very well done study looking at the role of viruses and Alzheimer's, in particular the herpes virus associated with cold sores. Now, this isn't the first time we've heard this. There was actually a study that came out probably 18 months, maybe even 24 months ago, that showed that they seem to see a relationship between the herpes virus and the amyloid plaques that we see in Alzheimer's. It seems as though the viruses may start to trigger plaque formation. One thing we know about plaques is that they act as almost like landfill in the brain. So it's almost like a dumping ground. And so we've known that they gather up difficult plaques in the brain, these little free-floating proteins that cause Alzheimer's, we believe, and they pull them all into one place, like you would in a dump. And what they're finding is that the core of these seems to be the herpes virus in many instances. So what does that mean? Well, one thing that it means is that it may be an opportunity for a drug target. If there's an intervention that can be targeting viruses, perhaps maybe we can prevent the progression of Alzheimer's. The other thing it means is that this is a correlation. This is an association. It doesn't mean it's causing Alzheimer's, but perhaps because the brain is experiencing difficulties associated with Alzheimer's, the virus is taking advantage of that and forming in larger numbers. So we have a lot to learn about this. I would encourage you to not panic because most of us, myself included, have had cold sores at various times. But what it does tell us is that we need to do more research to understand this relationship, and perhaps it might be a key to the future of how we might prevent this or reduce the difficulties associated with Alzheimer's. That would be great. Another thing we get a lot of questions about, especially on Facebook, is ultrasound as a treatment for Alzheimer's. Now, if you're like me, I saw this all over Facebook and have been asked a lot of times about, can I get ultrasound treatment for Alzheimer's? Well, where did that come from? Well, it actually comes from mouse research. So they have used ultrasounds with Alzheimer's mice to break up plaque, and it appears to then be removed from the brain, which is exciting, right? But it's only been mice. So don't sign up yet. Let's wait and see how it is with humans. And the good news is they're just starting this kind of research up in Canada, and they're looking at safety trials in humans. So first we need to see if it's safe, and then we can see if it makes a difference. Just a note of caution is we have seen things work very well in mice. We actually have cured Alzheimer's in mice. So you just want to hold off, and before you sign up to have ultrasound of your brain, let's wait and see A, if it's safe, and B, if it makes any difference in humans like it does in mice. The last thing I want to mention about science is another thing that was in the news, and it's related to something called BACE inhibitors. Now, what are BACE inhibitors? This is a class of drugs that's been looked at to try to prevent plaque from forming. And I won't go into all the details. If you're interested, check out our website and Google BACE inhibitors, and you'll get a better sense of exactly what they're targeting. But we had some good news, and we had some not so good news in the last couple of weeks. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we heard that one of the BACE inhibitors was going from phase 2 to phase 3 clinical trials. That meant that with a small group of people with Alzheimer's, it looked pretty good and was worthy of study. Unfortunately, the following week we heard that another BACE inhibitor that was in phase 3 failed. And so the drug company that was studying that BACE inhibitor decided to discontinue the trial. So we had one bit of good news with an earlier trial, and then not so good news with a later trial. Unfortunately, this is what happens, is when we're looking at smaller numbers of people, we've seen positive results from various treatments. When we get to large numbers of people, they don't always hold up. And so we have to keep at it until we find one or more interventions that are going to get us to where we're going. And that's what we're doing. So that's kind of the update in research for this week. If you're just joining us, welcome to Facebook Live with the Alzheimer's Association. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly, Executive Director for the Northern California and Northern Nevada chapter. And now I want to share a bit about what's going on in the community. Some of you participated in the longest day on June 21st. I did. I was so fortunate to get to take part from Hawaii. We had a wonderful event hosted by an organization called The Plaza. It was a pleasure to be there. What a great place to spend the longest day. I have some specific thank yous to share with our top teams, and we had some amazing top teams. So I want to start and thank Arthur Murray Studios in San Francisco, who raised $7,000. The Longest Tennis Rally raised $12,000. American Contract Bridge League number 412 raised over $13,000. And the ACBL, that's the American Contract Bridge League team on the peninsula, raised $14,000. Thank you, both of you, for that fantastic fundraising. Dance for Life on the peninsula raised $14,000. The Villages, a shout out to you, $21,000 on the longest day. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Arthur Murray Studios in Millbrae. You are fabulous. Or maybe I should do some type of dance as appropriate to thank you for your over $30,000 in fundraising for the longest day. Mwah! We love you. We love you all. And good news, is not too late to register. If you have an event, you can continue to register through July 31st, and you can fundraise through August 31st. So take advantage of that. In our family, we're gonna have an event in August. So really, you can do this anytime year round, but our season will end at the end of August. We have some exciting events coming up this weekend. Actually, is it this weekend or tomorrow? In Fresno, we have our Latino conference, June 30th. Fantastic event, and we invite all of you to participate in that. I also want to remind you that our helpline is available 24/7, so if you have a question or concern, please either dial our helpline at 1-800-272-3900 or visit our website. We have a brand new website at alz.org. It's beautiful, at least I think it's beautiful, has fabulous information. We welcome your feedback on that. One thing I want to mention about information about Alzheimer's is I'm still shocked by how confused people are with misinformation about Alzheimer's and dementia. I was just sharing with our team this morning that recently I spoke to 3 friends who told me that their parents had that normal age-related dementia, not Alzheimer's. And the more we talked about it, I realized that they do sound like they have dementia, and there is no such thing as normal age-related dementia. If someone is unable to take care of themselves, handle their daily affairs, function normally as they have, that's not normal. We don't expect that as we get older. We might be a little more forgetful, forgetting where our car keys are, or having a hard time coming up with the right word for something. But generally, healthy aging means you can function independently your entire life, unless you develop a disease like Alzheimer's. And dementia means that someone is progressing and having difficulty in their ability to function. And Alzheimer's is the #1 cause of those symptoms. So when someone says to you, my family member has a normal dementia, maybe you could say, gosh, you know, I heard that dementia isn't normal. Maybe it would be good to get that checked out, because there are resources available, and we want to make sure that no one faces Alzheimer's or related disorders alone. Oh, okay, sorry everybody. I didn't realize my slide disappeared. We just had to hit the shift button. Last but not least, the Walk to End Alzheimer's is gearing up. We just had our team kickoff here in the Alzheimer's Association with all of our staff, and I want to invite you all to do the same. Walk is an amazing opportunity to get your friends and family together to address Alzheimer's. And we have walks all over the country, so if you're tuning in from outside Northern California, there is a walk near you too. And if you're local, please sign up. Signing up early makes a huge difference, and the money we raise through Walk to End Alzheimer's makes everything possible. It allows us to have the care and support services, the public policy activities, and the research activities. And the Alzheimer's Association is the largest private nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's science in the world, and the walk is a part of that. So I hope you'll join us next month for Facebook Live again, and I hope to see you at a Walk to End Alzheimer's near you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.